Diamond, D-I-A-M-O-N-D.
A precious gem of the most valuable kind. When pure, it is clear.
Diamond, D-I-M-O-N-D.
A family name bringing traditions of love, hard work, and moral values.
This is the Diamond Education Podcast with my mom and dad, Johnny and Kelly England.
Welcome to the Diamond Education Podcast with John and Kelly England. We're here to help you find the most valuable education for your child.
We're excited today to have Renae Zentz on with us. She is one of the co-founders of Family Lyceum. Renae grew up in a large family in Houston, Texas. She saw her first snowfall at BYU, where she completed a BA in Humanities. She began her homeschool journey over 20 years ago, thrilled to have her children on her own lap learning to read and in her own kitchen learning about life. She has embraced every phase of their education. She loves teaching all ages, from preschool on the living room floor to leadership classes at George Wythe College, where she received an MA in education. She and her husband, Harold, enjoy family gatherings, trips to anywhere, and adventures in their own backyard. They have 6 children and 4 adorable granddaughters. Renae, welcome to the Diamond Education Podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you on. And Renae, we always like to start our podcast with the question, what is education?
I believe that education encompasses all learning. And learning is something that we start from birth and we can continue throughout our life. I think lifelong learning is one of my goals, and to create an environment where children love to learn and want to learn and will continue learning when they're outside of the classroom or outside of any kind of learning institution. Family Lyceum was founded to create a happy place and a safe place where students can come and learn. And a lyceum was originally a place in ancient Greece where people would go to learn, and they learned all kinds of things. And it was a place where adults would go learn, and they learned astronomy and physics and anatomy and government. It was a place where they would go and train for the Olympics. So it encompassed, everything from learning about your body and to learning sciences and government. And so at the Lyceum, we like to have families come, and we support families and create a place where children can learn.
I love that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that you include the family as part of your model and make that such a central role. I do think that's like a really kind of important aspect of education that sometimes gets overlooked.
Yeah. And involve the community with the Lyceum.
Yeah. Our classes are for students ages 3 to 14 right now. But we do really feel like we support the entire family because we support the parents and we honor the parent. There's something really critical in education that I think we sometimes forget, and that is who has the final say, or who owns the children, who decides what the children are going to be taught. And in the public education system, it's government owned and government funded and government run. And in the end, it really is the government that decides what the children will be taught. And at Family Lyceum, we have a completely different take on that. We provide this environment for learning, and we teach the children, but we really feel like it's the parent that makes the final decisions about what the children should be taught. And when students ask us questions, especially sensitive questions about government or religion or politics or sex education, we defer to the parent. We feel like that is something where we're here to support the family and not take education away from the family.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Yeah, because sometimes coming from the public education system, they forget their role. Like we had many times we were like, that doesn't go along with our family values, in that respect. And I mean, there are a lot of good teachers in the public education system that do have values that align with our family, but it's that respect and knowing what your role is,
Yeah.
as far.
Well, and like you, John, my family is involved in public education, private education, and home education.
Yeah.
My husband has been teaching 30 years for the local school district. He teaches middle school German, and he loves what he does, and the students love him. We can't go anywhere in the world without running into some of the students, and
That's
they
awesome.
they always have, stories to tell about his class, about, when he did the Berlin Wall activity, or when he taught them German dances or poems, or, and he really has a wonderful time. And I have the greatest respect for people who are serving and giving their lives in that area of education.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, that's pretty amazing. So tell us a little bit about the history of Family Lyceum and why you started it.
I never thought I was going to start a private school. I didn't set out to be any sort of administrator, but my husband and I decided to homeschool our children when our oldest daughter was very young. And we did that completely independently for the first 15 years, really getting no funds and no support from anything outside of our own home. Everything that I did for those years was just me setting up co-ops or small groups, really in homes or libraries, and then teaching them at home. And we had a wonderful experience. And then I had a couple of years where I had an opportunity to teach some classes in the community. And I had a little class of 18 students twice a week. And my children at that time, who were ages like 7 to 11, they just loved it. And I realized that they were happier and getting a greater education, and they thrive on competition. A little bit of healthy competition in the classroom was really motivating to them. And I realized that having that classroom experience and then still having lots of time to be home. My children are musicians and athletes and ballroom dancers, and they have a lot of things that they do outside of your traditional school curriculum. And so I have always wanted them to be able to have those experiences, and also to be able to get a good education and have enough time to have downtime and family time and learn how to work and all of those things. So I got together with a friend of mine, and we decided to start a private school where students could come to class a couple days a week and experience a classroom, have outside mentors and friends outside of maybe their own cousins and neighborhood or whatever their homeschool offered, and experience that environment of learning while still having time to homeschool and have some one-on-one time with parents and family at home. So we launched Family Lyceum, and our first year we had 25 students in 2 classes, and the year after that we almost tripled our enrollment, and we've just kind of moved on from there. And when we started, we just did 1 day a week, and then the older kids did 2 days a week, and we've shifted to 2 days a week, which we feel like is a really good balance, for most families. So all of our students come 2 days a week, and then we do have some optional classes. Sometimes they come on a third day for extra stuff.
You kind of already talked about that, about how, you bring families in and the model that you chose and why you do that. But when we spoke with you earlier this week, you told us that your school really focuses on a growth mindset. And tell us about why that is important to your model.
Well, it's part of the culture at Family Lyceum, is that our brain is a muscle. And when a student is discouraged, or they say, oh, I'm just not good at that, or I don't know how to do that, we teach that I'm not there yet. The concept of yet. We're big fans of Carol Dweck and some of the others who teach these principles. And we really try to teach the students about how their brain works, and that just like anything else you want to learn in life, you can improve and you can get better and you can become excellent at anything that you consistently work at. We have a really neat environment in our classes where the students are able to be in a classroom with students of different ages and different abilities, and they support each other and cheer each other on. That we sometimes will have students sitting next to each other who may be years apart in, if we were to test them on their reading or writing level or whatever, which we don't do here, but and yet, they're given the same writing assignment, and one of them might be struggling with a few sentences while the other one is just rolling out paragraphs, and yet there is no shame or negativity in that. And they realize that we are all at a different place in our education, and that as long as we're moving forward and learning, it's okay, that we're all different, we're all unique. And the teachers just really work at creating this classroom culture that's so supportive. Our classroom motto is, we are a class that is kind, and we practice kindness. And when we see unkindness or any behavior that's outside of that culture that we're trying to create, we stop and we talk about it, and we role play, and really just help the students to realize that we're all here learning together, and it's okay, and we're all different, and we can grow and learn, and we just want them to know that it takes work and effort, but that they can continually improve.
Yeah, I love that. I love the mixed ages concept and progressing at your own level. Like, we had a daughter when we brought her out of the public education system. She was supposedly doing well in math. And then I brought her home and started doing it with her. And I was like, wait, she hasn't got some concepts down, but yet she was being progressed into eventually. And I had my older daughter who hated math and didn't understand it. And where I was like, I wonder if it started with those not understanding those concepts when they're young and just gradually building. And I love the idea too of each of them progressing, because we have one daughter who is awesome at writing and language arts and things like that, but science isn't, like, she struggles with a little bit more. But then another daughter does well in science and excel. And I think that's so important, because all those kids, sometimes they get labeled dumb or not smart, or they feel like not smart, when we all have different talents, and it's really our personal journey and just gradually getting better in our own way. Yeah. So I love that you guys have that environment for those kids to succeed. Yeah.
So I noticed on your website that you not only have classes for students, but also have classes for parents that you call your Hearth classes. Why do you hold these parent classes, and tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah. Okay. So our motto, our logo at Family Lyceum is a book with a flame coming out of it. And it's about lighting the fire, right? So we want to light the fire of learning for all of our students. And then all of our class names have something to do with this fire. So our little preschool class is called Firefly. And then our 5 and 6 year olds are Spark, and 7 to 9 year olds are Flicker, and then 9 to 11 year olds are Ember and Flare. Our older students, like our 12 to 15 year olds, are Flare. So you kind of get this idea, right? We kind of have this motif of we're lighting the fire of learning. And we feel like at home, it's the hearth. The hearth, traditionally in a home, was the place where you had your fireplace, right? And where the family would gather for family reading, for family prayer, for family learning, a place where meals were cooked and served near the hearth. So the hearth fire is the home fire. And we feel like the parents' responsibility to keep that home fire burning and that love of learning in the home is so critical. One of the things that our parents are expected to do, and that we make very clear at our application interviews, is to read aloud to their children every day. We have a list of books, and they can choose. Usually there's at least 2 choices each month, but they choose from that and they read aloud those books to their children. And even if their children are excellent readers, we ask them to be reading aloud, because we feel like that is part of keeping the home fire burning and keeping your hearth strong. Also, children do what they see, not just what they hear. So we want parents to be modeling learning and reading, of course, with their children. So we hold these classes called our Hearth classes, and they're classes that are specifically geared for parents to help them in their homeschool and in their education journey and with their personal education. What we've been doing this year, we've found from year to year, families just are busier and busier.
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing we do for our Hearth classes is we hold book discussions, and we've resorted to doing those on Zoom because it fits in better with people's schedules. But we do love also to have some of those classes in person. But we have a book discussion. We just had one this week on The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom.
Yeah.
And just a beautiful book that some of our mature youth are ready to read, but is really great for adults and for parents, right? And we're teaching in our cycles in history right now. We are on modern history and coming up on World War II. So this is a book we wanted our parents to read so that they could be more prepared to discuss some of those things with their students. So that's kind of the inspiration and joy behind that Hearth class. Let's get the parents together, make sure they're working on their own education and support them as much as we can.
I love that. I look back to add and to say, like, my mom always had a bag full of books and was reading, and that played a huge influence in my life, that now I actually have my bag with some books in it. We always gave her a hard time of all her bags and everything. And now, the example a parent is, and that you guys are nurturing that at your school is awesome.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm also noticing that The Hiding Place keeps coming up in all of our interviews. So I guess I should read that book.
we keep telling him, John, you need to read The Hiding Place.
Oh yeah, if you haven't read that one, that's a good one.
Yeah,
it's a good, really good. Yeah, I think that's your sign, babe.
I think it probably is. I better add it to my reading list.
So you started the Family Lyceum 10 years ago. What are some of the successes that you have seen since you began, Renae?
Well, I think successes for me are measured every day. And I think I mentioned we don't do really a lot of testing. We don't have a traditional report card. But I tell parents that the real test comes in the car on the way home from school or at the dinner table when mom or dad say, "Hey, what'd you learn today?" And when a child or student can just really share what they learned and talk about the book that they discussed or the chemical equations that they learned how to balance, or whatever it is that they did that day, and have that discussion with their parents, that really is the greatest test and the measure of our success. And those little daily success stories, and we get some really awesome feedback from our parents where they say, "Wow, Johnny is just always so excited when he gets in the car to tell us about what he learned." One of my favorite things to do every day is I greet the students at the door. And if at all possible, I just try to plant myself at the door for that 10 or 15 minutes before school starts every day. And you see these kids like jump out of their car and just come running up to the school. And they are so excited to come and to be here. And then their friends, some of the friends like wait inside our little vestibule between the two doors, like watching for their friends, and they just go off to class so happy. And then at the end of the day, they don't want to leave. And when I tell them, "Oh, it's going to be President's Day and we're going to have a day off of school," they're like, "What? Why do we have to have holidays? Mrs. Zentz, could we not have spring break?" They just want to come and they want to learn. And I feel like that in itself is our daily success story. And then I know you asked me earlier about, students who we served 8 or 10 years ago and where are they now? And it is really interesting to follow those students. And of course, Family Lyceum is not the whole picture for them, but we are one of the steps along the way on their educational journey. And we have seen many of those students just begin adult life and university life and community service. And it's fun to see where they go and to feel like we played a part in cheering them on their journey.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that you mentioned when we spoke earlier this week is that some of the students, the process that you gave of that love of learning, but also gives them flexibility to maybe pivot as they actually decide, well, I'm going this way, but no, I actually want to maybe start dental school or something like that, right? And so I love that aspect of it. So
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of parents ask me, well, what comes next, whether that's for high school or college, or what do our kids need to do to be ready? And I'm really old-fashioned and pretty traditional. And I tell them, if you are hitting reading, writing, and math every day consistently from the time they're preschool through high school, and then you are allowing them to pursue the things that they are interested in, you're going to get there.
Yeah.
And I want to see students who, when they are high school graduation age, when they're 18, I want them to have every opportunity at their feet. I want them to have the world at their feet. I want them to have, the STEM, the math and science and technology. I want them to be able to think and read great literature, to write well, and to be able to have all options open to them. Because I found that most parents and most students, when your child's in middle school, you really don't know what their path is going to take and what they're going to want to do 5 or 10 or 20 years later. And so as a parent and as a teacher and leader in the education community, I just want to see kids who have a great, well-rounded education, so that whatever it is they decide they want to do, they're going to have the foundation for that.
yeah.
I love that, Renae. So I'm reading Gifted Hands right now by Ben Carson. I don't know if you're familiar.
Yes.
So it goes along with this because his mom actually made a big change in their life. It was going and reading books and not spending as much time on TV. And it changed. Like at first they dreaded it, these two boys, right? Like, we have to give up our, TV time. But then they went to the library and they found the love of books and reading. And you think of Ben Carson as just this surgeon, right? Like he would hyper focus on just that. But that man, because of his reading, has all sorts of interests. And he worked, I don't know if you know, like he worked cleaning up trash on the highway and found love in that. He worked in the car industry and all these other things, and he found love in all that work. So it was just that love of learning he found through, like you said, reading and exploring, which I love that you guys are doing at Family Lyceum, because it is, like you say, a lyceum is learning in many ways. So,
yeah. Well, we always like to end our podcast with one kind of off the wall question, which is, who is one of your heroes from history and why?
Oh, that's a great question. One of the classes that we offer here at Family Lyceum is called Heroes. And we just really teach the students. We take about a month for each hero. And this year they've learned about George Washington Carver and Albert Einstein and Marie Curie and Mahatma Gandhi. And, there's so many, Winston Churchill. So many wonderful historical heroes. And we feel like when they come to know real people who did hard things, it can really be inspiring and help them know that they too can do hard things. Our theme this year is Stand for Something. We're in our modern history year. And as we are studying some of these people, we look for people who stood up for something that they felt was valuable, and that they took a stand and made a difference in the world. And so I could talk about any number of dozens of those people that probably all of you, anyone who's listening, have also heard of and have great respect for. But I'd like to finish off with talking about my mom. My mom grew up almost like an only child out in West Texas on a ranch, and was very isolated. And she had I think a good childhood where her father was a veterinarian and she loved going to the dog hospital and being with him, but she had very little exposure to different activities or anything like that. And as an adult, she moved away and went to the university and began to learn all sorts of different things. And my mom is the greatest example to me of a lifelong learner. She learned to swim as an adult, learned to ride a bike as an adult. She became quite an athlete and learned all sorts of different sports, baseball, volleyball, racquetball, that she played all up and into her 70s. There were many things she had never done before that she did for the first time as an adult. When you introduced me, you mentioned that I'm from a big family, and my mom says the very first baby that she held or changed was her own first child. And she raised 12 children. And my father is a geologist and provided well for our family for most of their marriage. But when the oil business cratered in the 80s, my mom began starting businesses. And she didn't have a college degree. But she was one who was just so optimistic and so willing to learn and try anything, that for about 8 years, the small businesses that she started provided for the needs of our large family. And I just have the absolute greatest respect for my mom. And when people ask me, like, oh, how did you learn how to run a business? Or and I'm like, well, I didn't really. I just watched my mom my whole life.
Yeah.
And last year, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma, and it took her life. And her time with us was cut short, but she has left a legacy of lifelong learning. And she just had such zeal and passion and love for all people. She was excellent at connecting with people and at taking an idea and implementing it and really making things happen. And so it's people like that I think are our closest heroes. And then some of those distant heroes, Abraham Lincoln or Winston Churchill, or someone that did great things in the world. I think that we have as a community of heroes, and I think both of them are so important, that we have those heroes in our individual lives and families, and then heroes in our community, in our country, and in the world that we can look up to. So,
Renae, I love that.
Thank you.
Your story resounds. I lost my mom over a year ago, and same thing. It was funny when you said starting business, because she started a garbage business, a little restaurant, because circumstances made that she had to provide. And so anyway, I'm like, oh, you just sung to my heart. Our moms, they are the unsung heroes. So thank you for that story.
And it's what we really need. We need a nation of moms, and I think it is what has made our nation great, are the parents, the moms, the dads, and the grandparents play a part in the lives of the families and just make our community stronger.
Absolutely. Yes. The family is so important. And I'm so glad you guys focus on that. So Renae, thanks for all you do in your work.
Oh, well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. What is one way, if our listeners are interested in finding out more about Family Lyceum, how can they connect with you and learn about the school?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing is to just Google it, right?
Yeah.
Family Lyceum. We do have a little bit of an interesting name, so it's pretty easy to find. Lyceum, Lyceum. And we're located in Clearfield, Utah. Go to our website, fill out a contact form. We are always happy to schedule free consultations or tours of the school with people who are interested in finding out more about what we do. And we're not able to serve everyone, but we're a really great fit for a lot of the families in this area.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on our podcast.
Yep. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, Renae.
Thank you for listening to the Diamond Education Podcast.
You can connect with us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook
at Diamond Education, DIMOND, or on our website, diamonded.com.